Hello, YouTube family. Today, I want to talk to you about a hypothetical scenario that has been debated by many fans of action movies. Who would win in a fight between James Bond and John Wick? These two characters are some of the most iconic and lethal killers in cinema history, but they have very different backgrounds, skills, and personalities. In this video, I will compare and contrast their strengths and weaknesses, and try to determine who would have the upper hand in a deadly duel. First, let me introduce you to James Bond. He is the world's most famous spy and secret agent, working for MI6, the British intelligence service. He has a license to kill, which means he can eliminate any enemy of the state without facing legal consequences. He is also a master of espionage, using various gadgets, disguises, and vehicles to infiltrate enemy bases, gather information, and escape danger. He is trained in hand-to-hand combat, martial arts, and marksmanship, and he can use any weapon he finds, from guns and knives to pens and watches. He is also very charming, witty, and suave, often seducing women and cracking jokes in the midst of life-threatening situations. However, James Bond also has some weaknesses. He is often reckless, arrogant, and overconfident, which can lead him to underestimate his opponents, disobey orders, and expose his identity. He also has a soft spot for women, especially those who are in distress or betray him, which can make him vulnerable to manipulation, betrayal, and emotional pain. He also tends to rely on his gadgets and allies, such as Q, M, and Felix Leiter, which can make him dependent on external factors and resources. Now, let me introduce you to John Wick. He is a former hitman and assassin, who worked for a criminal organization called the Ruska Roma. He was trained by them since he was a child, and he became one of the most feared and respected killers in the underworld. He was known as Baba Yaga, or the Boogeyman, because he could kill anyone with anything, even a pencil. He retired from his life of crime after falling in love with a woman named Helen, who died of a terminal illness. He then lived a peaceful life with his dog, until a group of thugs killed his dog and stole his car, triggering his return to the violent world he left behind. John Wick's strengths are his incredible skills in gun fu, which is a style of fighting that combines guns and martial arts. He is also proficient in tactical and speed shooting, knife fighting, and hand-to-hand combat. He has a vast network of contacts and allies in the underworld, such as the Continental Hotel, the Bowery King, and the Director, who can provide him with weapons, information, and safe havens. He is also very focused, determined, and relentless, never giving up until he achieves his goal, no matter how many enemies he faces or how much pain he endures. However, John Wick also has some weaknesses. He is often driven by his emotions, especially anger and grief, which can cloud his judgment and make him reckless. He also has a sense of honor and loyalty, which can make him spare or help his enemies, such as Cassian, Ares, and Sophia. He also has a bounty on his head, which means he is constantly hunted by other assassins who want to claim the reward and the fame of killing him. So, who would win in a fight between James Bond and John Wick? Well, it depends on many factors, such as the location, the weapons, the preparation, and the motivation. However, based on their strengths and weaknesses, I would say that John Wick has a slight edge over James Bond. Here are some reasons why. John Wick is more skilled and experienced in gun fu, which gives him an advantage in close-range combat. He can also use any object as a weapon, which gives him more options and flexibility. John Wick is more focused and determined, which gives him an edge in endurance and resilience. He can survive multiple injuries and keep fighting, while James Bond might succumb to pain or fatigue. John Wick is more independent and resourceful, which gives him an edge in adaptability and improvisation. He can rely on himself and his contacts, while James Bond might depend on his gadgets and allies. Of course, this is not to say that James Bond is a weak or inferior fighter. He is still a formidable opponent, who can surprise and challenge John Wick with his gadgets, charisma, and intelligence. He might also have some advantages over John Wick, such as James Bond is more stealthy and cunning, which gives him an advantage in espionage and infiltration. He can use his disguises, gadgets, and vehicles to sneak into enemy territory, gather information, and escape danger. James Bond is more charming and witty, which gives him an advantage in persuasion and deception. He can use his charm, humor, and seduction to manipulate, distract, or disarm his enemies. James Bond is more patriotic and noble, which gives him an advantage in motivation and morality. He can fight for a greater cause and a higher authority, while John Wick might fight for personal reasons and selfish interests. Therefore, the outcome of the fight between James Bond and John Wick is not certain or predictable. It could go either way, depending on the circumstances and the strategies. However, based on my analysis, I would give a slight edge to John Wick, because I think he is more skilled, focused, and resourceful than James Bond. But, of course, this is just my opinion, and you might have a different one. So, I invite you to share your thoughts and arguments, and let me know who you think would win in a fight between James Bond and John Wick. Thank you for your attention. If you would like more information, you can visit my websites, whatsonhollywood.com and marveldccrossover.com. The links are provided in the description below.